I am very pleased to have James Avery here. He is the founder and CEO of Kevel, and basically, Kevel is a next generation technology for publisher ad serving, right? So it's basically it helps you to build faster. It's built to be so that you can be actually faster and easier to use, and it's very comprehensive, more comprehensive than anything that is on the market in that space today. So if you actually head over to kevel.co, you can basically see that Kevel is an ad serving API, or helps with ad serving APIs so that you can build your custom ad platforms, right? So a lot of you guys might be wondering how to actually incorporate it, and we will be learning today who is benefiting from Kevel, and how potentially you can be leveraging it for your business as well. So, James, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, like when we kind of describe what we do, we like to equate it to kind of Twilio or Stripe, right? Like when you're looking at building kind of, whether it's you're texting people or you're building a communication platform, right? You go to Twilio, not because Twilio solves every problem for you, but because they give you all the APIs that you can kind of piece together and build what you need. Yeah. We've kind of taken the same approach to building kind of ad platforms and customization platforms where, we have all the APIs so that you can go build on top of it. Yeah. And so it's, like advertising is like one pretty big use case. But then also places like Ticketmaster, the shows that you actually see when you go to Ticketmaster.com, a lot of those images and the promoted shows are all powered by our API. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of that level of customization as well, which makes sense, right? You go to Ticketmaster, you want to see shows that are applicable to you, not just the whatever random one happens to be in your town, that week.
100%. To further clarify that for the listeners, who would be typically using Kevel? Like, what would be the typical kinds of clients, and what would be the sort of the key use cases? You alluded to one there already. What else would be sort of
Yeah, I mean, so it's one of the things I love about an API business is that we're constantly surprised by the ways that people use us. I think the kind of core use case that we see over and over again is around building your own ad platform. So things like sponsored listings, like somebody like Edmunds, which is like a car site, right? They want to have sponsored listings of cars. They can use our API to do that. Mm-hmm. Marketplaces like Cherish, which sells kind of high-end antique furniture, the vendors can promote their post, right? So that their listing, shows up in a kind of preferential way and is marked as promoted. You see Amazon does this a ton, right? Mm-hmm. But then also, we work with companies in the podcasting space, right? That mm-hmm. they use our technology to stitch ads into podcasts, or in the like digital out of home, like our technology is used to power digital billboards. Mm-hmm. Or one of my favorite ones is Strava, because I'm a Strava user. Is with Strava, they use it to promote their kind of internal upsells. Right. So it's like, what if you could give your internal marketing team, the same level of tools that they have when they're buying on Facebook, but for your internal audience, mm-hmm. right? So you could go and say like, oh, like these are the people we want to target for an upsell, or for a merch purchase, or follow this other athlete. It's really about, building those kind of either internal or external ad platforms using our APIs.
Very cool. And with this sort of, wide ways of usage for Kevel, like, what do you typically see is the journey that somebody's going through in order to, get to know Kevel and then getting started? Like, what would be the channels that they travel through at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've been lucky that we have a lot of word of mouth and a lot of inbound. And so a lot of people find us kind of either through kind of content marketing or word of mouth. And then the people that are coming to our site are usually people looking to solve a problem, right? So it's less about us convincing them they have a problem, and more that they know they want to build this ad platform, or they want to build this, upsell platform. And they're trying to figure out, like, can Kevel help me solve this problem? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times they're product managers or they're developers. We always see people quickly jump into kind of our public API docs and things like that, right? To dig around and say, oh, like, we need something that does X. Like, can we call this from the server side? Can we import our own user data? Is that user data safe, right? Like, we can't, is it not shared with anybody? And so you quickly see people start to dig through all the documentation and API docs and, and articles to try to really answer those questions. And they, and I think today more than ever, right? Like people research a lot before they reach out. Like, we don't get the one where it's a form fill out where they just say, oh, hey, I want to know what you guys do, right? Like a lot of times we get people that come in and they've already done all this research and they say, oh, it looks like you do this, this, and this that we want, but can you do, X or Y? And then it's like, okay, yeah, we can talk through like how you can accomplish X or Y using our platform, or maybe you can't, So it's definitely like there's a lot of that. They build up that education, using the information that we have on the site.
Yeah, you were describing actually the journey that people go through on the Kevel pages, right? The documentations, the case studies, resources you were talking about. What would you say is sort of the strength of the website? Is it the ability with that information to convert somebody to sign up, for example, for on the page through the web form, or would it be just the content that you're providing, or the quality of the leads that are coming through? What would you say is the strength of the website?
Yeah, I mean, I think the strength is one, like how open we are with a lot of how Kevel works.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was previously an engineer. I'm a big fan of open source. Like you go to a lot of sites and they have, stuck their documentation behind, login, or they're, cagey about what works, or there's like a really, there's like a big line between the sales materials and the like actual documentation. And so we've always taken the approach that it should all be open and out there, and you can get to all the same docs whether you're a customer or not, because we really respect the engineer and the product manager who says, yeah, like your case studies told me kind of what you do, or the benefit you provide, but now I really want to go see that API call and see like what the, what actual fields I'm sending in and getting back, and what does the response look like, and does it do these like very specific things. So I think that, with all that information, like we definitely get, we get pretty well educated prospects, which I think is great, right? Like that's, really helps keep the sales team focused on deals that I think, are high potential.
On the flip side, though, I always like to ask, what would you say, where's the room for improvement on the page? Is it the rates, the conversion rates, the quality scores of the leads? Is it the experience? Like, where do you see room for improvement?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we've been looking at is, I'm a very, like, I like to read, right? Like I'm somebody who wants to, like, I don't want to see your video. I don't want to, listen to a pitch. I don't want to talk to somebody. I want you to just drop me into, a 7,000 word article, and I will read it and learn that way. But obviously not everybody learns that way, right? Like, and there is no, best way to learn. It's kind of different for every person. And so we've seen that, like, one of the things we need to do more of is videos explaining a lot of these concepts, or videos walking through some of the APIs, how things work. So people who are more visual learners, like, that's there and available for them. So that's one of the things we're going to be investing in the future.
Gotcha. Very cool. If we come back to the product, right? Could you, for everybody who's listening in, right, and just getting to know Kevel, like, what would you say, sort of in a compressed way, like, what would be sort of the main competitive advantage of the product?
Yeah, I mean, I think our main competitive advantage is that we are really the only company out there that provides these tools in a very open way, so that people can build what they want to build and then they own it, right? So when you look at the kind of advertising space, especially, it's very dominated by Google and Facebook and these big tech giants, right? And if you're a traditional publisher working with Google, you're really kind of playing by their rules, right? Like, you're really saying, like, well, here, you can put these, these banner ads in these spots, and then Google JavaScript calls have to be made from your page. The ads have to look like this. We're going to run a bunch of extra tags and drop a bunch of cookies, right? Like, it's like you can sign up for that, but it's really, you're really only playing by Google's rules. Like, our approach, and what's so different is that we say, you need to take control, right? Like, you need to, as a publisher, as a, whether it's you're a marketplace or, a financial tool, whatever it is you are, as a company, you need to go and build your own, and, really build your own ad platform instead of ceding control to Google or Facebook or whoever. And we provide the tools to do that. And so in some ways it's a less lucrative prospect for us, right? Like, Like Google obviously makes a lot of money because they get to sell your ads. They get to keep a large percentage of it. They get to keep the data. For us, we said this should really be a SaaS tool,
Mhm.
right? Like we shouldn't be running your business. We shouldn't be selling your ads. We shouldn't be controlling your data. We think that this should just be a SaaS API platform that you can pay for and build what you want to build.
Very good. It's very, very easy to tell your engineering background there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm proud of that. I think it's good.
Awesome. If we would be looking behind the curtain of Kevel, right? What would be the structure of the sales and marketing teams at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, our marketing team, we have a pretty small marketing team. Right now it's 3 people,
Hmm.
with a focus of, our VP of marketing, Chris, who, is kind of running everything, doing lots of other things. I did mention before we recently kind of rebranded, which we can get into as well. And then we have, we have somebody who's focused on content.
Hmm.
Like a big part for us has been about the content strategy, people searching for, challenges that they're facing, that are applicable to our business, right? Like that's been, with a focus on SEO and good content, like it's really paid off over the years.
Hmm.
And then also we have somebody more focused on direct spend, as well as social and things like that. Which also, any sort of direct spend, right? Whether it's Google or LinkedIn or those things, like if you have somebody who really knows their stuff, like they will always work, right? But the trick is having somebody who really knows how to run those and optimize them and knows all the tricks of the trade.
From the sales side, how is sales structure?
Yeah, and then from a sales side, we have, the focus for us is to get people up and running on the platform.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of companies, really try to kind of extract all the value up front whenever possible. Our goal is to get people in, help them, make sure they get set up, make sure they launch, and then they're going to grow over time,
Yeah.
right? Like as they're more successful, as they sell more, as they scale their business, like they'll pay us more, right? Because it's a metered pricing, similar to Twilio. And so, our goal is to get people in the door, get them set up and going. And so for us, there's the sales reps, and then one of the really crucial roles is the solution architect, who is the person who is more technical and is talking to the other developer or the other PM and explaining, oh, that's the problem you're trying to solve. Like, here's how our APIs work. Here's how you can put them together. Here's how the data model kind of works. So it makes sense and you set it up in the right way. And so then that solution architect also stays on the account and helps them as they're launching, as they're scaling,
Mhm.
and is really kind of that person who, is the continuity from first couple calls, like once they, the customer sees that it could be a good fit, all the way to when they're scaling and launching their ad platform, and then, years down the road as they continue to grow it.
Gotcha. What happens if somebody signs up on your website, right? What happens? What journey are they traveling through your team?
Yeah, so right now, we don't have it where people can sign up without talking to a sales rep.
Hmm.
And part of the reason for that is because there is, when you kind of have, we kind of lovingly call it a box of Legos sometimes, right? Like there's, a lot of these different APIs. And so right now we think that the best way for, for someone to be successful is to talk with a sales rep, talk with a solution architect, have us help kind of design how you're going to build this platform on us.
Hmm.
So when they kind of first reach out, then they, a sales rep reaches back out, schedules a quick call, kind of understands what you're trying to do. Then we'll set up a call where, we can give you access as early as then to an API key and get you up and
Hmm.
running on the platform, or set up a call with a solution architect. But then but in the future, we think that we can get to the point where people can self-sign up. And so where people will be able to just come and sign up, get an API key, and get up and running. But it really comes back to, what you were talking about earlier, is the depth of kind of additional documentation to help educate people as they, do that process on their own.
Hmm. Very good. I would love to switch gears a little bit and talk about you personally as a leader in the company. What type of content do you still consume? You mentioned that very long articles that you love to deep dive in. Like, what do you consume? How do you educate yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love consuming a ton of content, right? So I read a lot of books. I still like to read good old fashioned paper books. I tried switching to Kindle and just can't keep my attention like a dead tree can. So I read a lot of books. I'm a big fan of podcasts, so I listen to a lot of different podcasts. One of my favorites is Acquired. I'm not
Hmm.
sure if you ever listened to Acquired. Like, it's a great show, kind of digs into business strategy and and companies who've been acquired or IPO'd. And then also, articles and of course Substacks, right? Like newsletters, like that's a very big new trend. So there's lots of great newsletters out there from, kind of Stratechery, which is probably the most famous one, to things like Not Boring is a great kind of newer newsletter. That really just, I think, take a great approach of, sometimes they're based on more current events, sometimes they're digging into, past event, but really just taking like a deep analytical view of it. And that's how I prefer to kind of keep up is the combination of books, newsletters, podcasts, and then of course catch reading Twitter and things like that, which sometimes are a little more junk food than rewarding, but still kind of keep an eye on what's going on.
Very good. Since we're slowly coming to an end of the interview already, I would love to jump into our rapid fire questions, right? That's a couple of short and crisp questions and answers. You ready for those?
Sure.
What's the last of the many books that you read?
Last one I read was Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke, which is a really great book. Kind of, she was a poker player, and just great approach to decision making.
What's the one single thing the company is focused on the most at the moment?
I think customer success. I think that's what we've always tried to focus on the most. Is if we make our customers successful based on how we're set up, then we're successful as well.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing you want to have fixed for the company today?
No boundaries in technology. The one thing to fix. That's a good question. I don't know. I think when we look at, there's so much opportunity. I think I wish we could just get 5 times more than we get done in any given day. Right? If we could just have a magic pill to make us all be able to do 5 times more. Like, I think that's what I would want.
Awesome. What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Last thing kept me awake. Well, we were so we recently rebranded. We used to be called Edzerk, and we rebranded to Kevel. And we were in the process of kind of setting up the last redirects of the site, and we were running into some like final issues, right, as you always do on like DNS and hosting, and trying to get it done at the last minute. And so that kept me up because it was kind of down to the wire of making sure we had everything in place exactly right before we announced.
Very good. And the very last question, right? If today would be the very first day working on Kevel, but let's exclude Edzerk as well, what would be the one advice you would give yourself if today would be the very first day you're working on that technology?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it would be to lean even more into the APIs and the extensibility and what people can do. I think when we err on the side of openness and flexibility, it's always worked out. When we kind of if you take a shortcut or if you build in a constraint early, then you live with that for a long time.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. I really appreciate, James, that you took the part for being with Pathmark Presents today. I want to give you the last word. If somebody forgets everything about the interview today, what would be the one thing that they should remember about Kevel?
Yeah, I think one thing to remember about Kevel is if you're looking to build a ad platform, if you want to be able to monetize without selling your user data to Google, without outsourcing your business model to somebody else, then come build an ad platform using our APIs. You can do it a lot faster than if you're building everything from scratch, and you get kind of the best of both worlds.
Very good. Thanks for being part of the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.